Introduction. Linda Fitzgerald, now known as Khadija, was an Irish girl from a town called Wicklow, close to Dublin. He comes from a very strict Roman Catholic family, composed of 9 children. His father is an electrician and his mother is a housewife. Linda was educated in Wicklow and so he went to university. He worked in Dublin for 9 years. Khadija, as she is now called, reverted to Islam after coming to Saudi Arabia. She reports, in this article, the sequence of events that brought her to this sacred land and that they introduced you to the right path. May God bless you. How I came to Saudi Arabia. I was in a youth club. We would meet every Monday and then go to the pub afterwards. Sometimes I went, but most of the time he went home after the dates. One night a young girl started going to the club and decided to go to the pub to talk to her and make her feel welcome. I learned that she worked for an employment agency that recruited for Saudi Arabia. She started to get me talk about it. I was fascinated. I had heard very little about the Saudi Arabia until then. Throughout the night I got more and more I was interested, and when I left the pub, I really wanted to go to Saudi Arabia. I applied for a job that year, 1993, but I didn't get it. So I didn't think about it anymore for a while time. I went home for Christmas and was very bored. I decided that I had to do something different with my life. All my friends had boyfriends or were married, involved in different things. Suddenly I found myself without ties. When I got back to town after Christmas, I called the girl from the employment agency and asked her to cast me for any job I wanted appear in Saudi Arabia. She said, "You won't believe. I just received a fax from the Security Forces Hospital asking for a secretary." I arrived here on March 15, 1994. My first impressions of Islam. When you come to Arabia Saudi, the first thing other Westerners will say is how Muslims they are terrible. How badly they treat their women, how they all go out to pray and do not return for hours, as everyone goes to Bahrain to drink and pick up women. There are prejudices from the beginning, and thinks that this is Islam. But it is not Islam. Unfortunately, most Westerners don't realize it. How I changed that view. As for me, I was curious from the beginning. I saw people praying in the mosque and thought it was great to have one strong faith to worship God so much. He saw pamphlets and picked them up to read, but so my Western friends would say, "Why do you want to read this? They are just brainwashing you." I was embarrassed and stopped reading. So I started taking Arabic classes and the Arabic teacher, an Egyptian, really got me impressed. He was very different from many Muslims that he had found. His faith was very strong. I became friends with him because I was having problems with a Muslim in the work and needed someone to talk to about it. I was upset and blamed Islam, but he was patient and explained things for me, helping me to see that it wasn't Islam and that not all Muslims behaved like this. Another thing that Westerners they will say that all Muslims want to reverse you, and that they will wash you cerebral for this purpose. So, of course, you get very alert if someone tries talk about Islam, puts up a barrier and doesn't listen to anything they say. Khalid never talked about Islam unless I brought it up first or incorrectly blamed Islam for something. Sometimes I practically attacked him unjustly for something that had nothing to do with Islam. He remained calm and was very patient. It was very clear that just wanted me to know the truth, wanted me to see that I was being unfair and ill-informed. Then came Ramadan. Many Saudi guys at work were complaining and saying, "We can feel smell of food, you shouldn't eat in your offices, you should have more respect for us." Couldn't understand why I shouldn't have a glass of water on my desk. After all, they were to make a sacrifice to God and they shouldn't care if I had a glass of water on my desk. The following is an extract from my diary that shows how I felt at the beginning of the Ramadan. It's Ramadan. My God, what a month. It's so boring. You can't even mention the word food. They're behaving like mega martyrs, and most of them is not even working. They only have to work 6 hours a day and thus stay up all night eating and making the rest of us feel as pagans by day. My friend, Khalid, tried explain to me. Explained about praying late at night and trying your best to be good and not to use vulgar language or complain or slander, and as you have to give more in charity. He said that some Westerners tried to fast to see how it was, and some liked it so much that they fasted every year. One morning I woke up and decided, I will fast. So I did. I didn't tell anyone, not even Khalid, at first, but in the end he realized. One day I went to see him and he said that he wanted me to read something. I brought a copy of the Quran to show me a copy of the Quran. Passage about Jesus, peace be upon him, and when he put it it was as if he had given me a precious piece of crystal. I felt a mix of respect and admiration. I didn't want to give it back, but I felt stupid and feared that he would laugh if he told me how I felt. So I gave it back, but it eroded me for days until finally he himself said to me, "Why don't you read the Quran?" It was as if a weight was lifted from my shoulders. I took him home and I started reading it that night.